Hello everyone, welcome. In this tutorial I will show you how I convert CAD models into SubD radar models in Cinema 4D. If you're not using Cinema 4D, do not worry because you will be able to follow me along easily with your application. Before we start, to give you some context about why SubD radar models are important, I have a quick demonstration over here. First thing first, you can unwrap this kind of quad meshes easily, which enables you to texture it easily. Secondly, you can animate these objects. I know this is an overkill, but I think you can see the point that I am trying to make here. Also, you can apply physics to this object as it is quite lightweight. Additionally, you can use this model in game engines by baking the high poly on a low poly mesh, etc. So what I'm trying to say is this model on the right is incredibly versatile. It is not always about modeling. Other aspects are involved. This model could be used in many sectors. It could be used in pipelines. So basically, this is the modeling method that will make it possible for you to make more money. I'm not saying that this one is trash, no. As a skilled 3D modeler, I think it is a must to know CAD and NURBS modeling. But if you want to be a well-paid modeler, this is the one that you should be really good at. I know this method requires a lot of knowledge, experience, and hard work, but in the end, being able to model objects in quads will pay off the hard work. I hope that makes sense. I wanted to talk about this because whenever I put a tutorial on YouTube, I get these questions like, why don't you model this in CAD? Why don't you model this in plasticity? Why don't you model this in Fusion? It will take 3 minutes. Yes, but this is not the point. It's not always about modeling. It is about modeling in the most versatile style. And this is the one. That's why my content on YouTube most of the time revolves around subdivision surface. Anyway, I talk too much. Now let's get into the tutorial. The first and greatest thing you can do is export your objects as accurately and low poly as possible. So instead of something like that, try to lower down the intensity. So something like that will be much easier to work on. You can dissolve some of these edges, these extra ones on the bevels. So having a low poly and accurate mesh will make the adjustment process quite easier and faster. But realistically speaking, this is not going to happen. Your clients will send the model. Since they don't know much about or care about topology, they will send the worst possible mesh. So that's why I will move forward with the worst case scenario. Now let's go to Cinema 4D. Here I am in Cinema 4D with my objects from that CAD file. First thing first, I always group my objects. But instead of selecting these and hitting Alt-G, which will average the position of that null based on the position of these objects, I always add in a fresh null, which will be right in the center of the world. Then I put these objects under that null. Additionally, I usually scale up my objects, scale up the null like 10 times because it is always easier to work on large objects. Once you are done with adjustments, you can select that null and set it back to 1. Before getting into modeling process, I want to talk about Polygonpen tool and Remesh objects. Let's start off with the Remesh objects because you may be tempted to use these tools as a shortcut, but these are not going to work. And let me show you why. So let's select this one and put it under the Remesh. But for doing that, let me set this to something like 5000. Then I will move it under the Remesh. Give it a few seconds. Okay, this is the result. As we can tell, the outcome is not looking very well. It is looking like a mutant. What I'm trying to say is this object or this tool is not working properly with this kind of hard surfaces, especially when they have this kind of deep bevels. So that's why you need to forget about this tool. It's not gonna work well. Obviously, you can play around with the settings, but whatever you do, I mean, from my experiences, it doesn't work well. So you can eliminate that option. Also, I want to talk about Polygonpen tool as well because it is also another fast way to build up your new mesh. on top of this CAD file. So let me grab the tool Mesh, Polygon Pen tool. I will enable reproject result. And for example, you need to click off, then grab the tool. So I will add that polygon in. So far, so easy. But when it comes to these bevels, these roundings, it's gonna make the process unnecessarily exhausting. So I usually stay away from polygon pen tool. Also, another thing to take note of is the distances between these points. In order to get perfect bevels or roundings, the distances between these points should be as equal as possible. And this is not going to happen by adjusting these points manually. So to get better roundings and bevels, we need to use bevel tool or bevel deformer. But if you have organic shape, this tool will work just great. This is also going to be the case when you want to remesh the objects. If you have an organic mesh, these tools, Polygonpen tool and remesh tool, will work much better than this kind of hard surfaces. Now I think we can get into modeling. Before modeling, I always check my object to find symmetrical points, and it looks like this object or this case has 4 symmetrical points, or maybe 6, because it looks like it is symmetrical on the y-axis as well. So that's why I will only work on that corner. So let's drop in a cube, and I will move it here. Then I will adjust the shape. Okay, now let's make it editable. I will stop here because I will be extruding a lot, and it is always easier to extrude out than extrude in. Let me show you with an example. If I drop in that loop and if I extrude that out, then I will have to add in another loop so that I can, extrude that in. But as you can see, I will have these leftovers, and it's going to be extremely painful to clean these out. So that's why it is always easier to extrude out than extrude in. And this is basically why I started at the very core of the shape, so that it's going to be easier to model the shape by extruding polygons out. Speaking of that, let's hold down Control, extrude that out. Once I have reached that wall or polygon or shape, I will stop and add in that loop along with that one. And my loop cut will be around at the start of this bevel. So I'm gonna drop in right around here. Then I will select these polygons, hold down Control, and extrude these out. By the way, I forgot to select this one. So let's select it and extrude these out. Then I will move that on the X. By the way, my raw shape should cover the whole mesh. So yeah, this is looking fine. By the way, I will drop in a loop right in the middle so that I can delete these points below. Also, I will select these center points and move them up. I will align this with the x-axis so that it's going to be easier to mirror these on. I will open up the coordinates manager, set this to world, and zero out the x position. Y position. Now let's hold down Control and extrude that out. I need to select this one as well. Hold down Control, extrude that out, then move that on the X. Now I will adjust these points. Top view. Again, I'm trying to cover the whole mesh. Now let's check the front view. It seems like we need to move these up. Let's not forget the right view. This looks way off. So I will move this on the Z. Then these ones, or maybe that edge only. Or you know what? Let's leave it like that because I will bevel that edge. Okay, the next step is to bevel the edges. So I will go into edge mode and select that edge, right click and grab the bevel tool. I will set this to 1, the subdivision. I believe 1 is the perfect number for this kind of bevels. It is not that high and it is not that low either, which will make it quite easier to adjust these points later. So 1 is going to be perfect. Same here. I want to select that one as well and bevel these edges out. Nice. Then I have that one, bevel tool. Nice. Then that one. Let me go to the right view and grab these edges. Again, bevel these with one subdivision. Other than that, we are done. I know I have a bevel over here, like this rounding, but I believe I could get it with the subdivision surface because it's gonna smooth out the whole shape. And for such a small beveling, I don't think we need to bevel the mesh. I think I got the raw shape. Now we are going to correct the mesh with the polygon pen tool, grab the tool, turn this off. By the way, we do not want to project anything right now. And what I'm going to do is pretty simple and straightforward. I will just clean up the mesh as much as possible. So grab the tool and try to get rid of every empty points and try to have all quads. All right, correcting process is over. I have got all quads except for some areas like this one and this one, but I don't think these are gonna cause any problems. Now I want to talk about something really important. It's gonna be about these roundings. Right now I have 3 edges, but these 3 edges will not be able to give me decent looking roundings. And let me show you in a separate file. So let's bevel that edge with one subdivision. And if I enable this SubD, let's go to the front view, for example, you're going to see that this rounding is not looking well. Basically, it is not accurate. It needs extra 2 loops right next to these edges. And the distances between these points should be the same, or at least as equal as possible. Most of the time, we are going to do this by eyeballing. Now, if I enable SubD, and if I go to the front view, you will see that now this rounding is looking much better. To compare, let me make a duplicate of this and move it over here and remove these extra loops. And if I enable SubD, if I go to the front view, you will see what I am talking about. This is the old one and this is the new one with these 2 extra loops. This step is quite important. You need these extra loops to hold up the curve a lot better. You may ask, why didn't you just increase up the subdivision level while beveling these edges? Well, if I did that, I would have to spend more time cleaning up the mesh. That's why it's always easier to add this later. Now, let's do that. This time it's going to be quite easy because of the correct topology. For example, we can grab that loop, grab slide tool, hold down Control and extrude and clone these off. Watch out the distances between the points. The distances should be as equal as possible. Then I will double click on that edge loop, clone these again. Nice. We have another rounding here, which means that I will need an extra loop on that side. So clone these. Then I will need another one on that side as well. Nice. Another rounding. So select the loop, clone these. Another rounding, and it will need a loop on that side and another loop on that side. I think that's all. Let's see what's going to happen if I drop this one into a SubD. Well, it looks like we have some artifacts. So let me first hit N and B to see the wireframes. And yeah, something is not right here, obviously. So I will grab the mesh and merge that point to that one. Still not looking well. I will connect these. This part is looking weird, but this is happening because of that angle, which I will fix later. I think this is the right time to mirror this. So I will unhide this one. First thing first, I need to select these polygons and move these on the Z. I need to align these polygons with the x-axis in order to use symmetry objects. So select these polygons, come over to the Z and zero out these, then delete these. Then I will drop in a new null, which will be right in the middle of the world. Then I will put that subdivision surface under that null. Then I will select that null and put it under a symmetry object. Let me hide this. I want to mirror this on the Z as well. Nice. Then I want to mirror this on the Y. Okay. Now we got the whole shape. As long as you have nice crossing points, you will be okay with this object. So if something is off, you probably have some badly positioned points. So select these points and check the coordinates manager. This should be 0. Let me hide the planes, enable weld. This is important. By the way, I need to get this cube out of the subdivision surface. The subdivision surface should be at the top. Enable this. Okay, now it is time to sharpen these edges. And to do that, you have two options. First one is the beveling tool again. Like you can select these loops, or you can select edges that you want to sharpen, then grab the bevel tool. You can set this to solids. So these are going to act like sporting edges, kinda. And if you enable SubD, these edges will look sharp. But instead of selecting these loops one by one, I will use bevel deformer, which will bevel the edges based on their angles. For such angular and hard surfaces, this tool works just great. So I will drop this one under the cube. I will first set this to solid, then lower down the offset to 0.2, for example. Then I will change my filtering to uniform, which will remove most of these triangles. Perfect. Then I will just play around with the angle threshold. You don't want to bevel the edges that are on the curved surfaces, so play around with that angle. By the way, that tool is not perfect. We will have to adjust it after applying it. So, for example, if I enable SubD, some parts will look really weird. So these are the parts that we need to fix manually. So let me first look at my mesh and unhide the target mesh. Move it aside to look at the bevels, to look at the amount of bevels. It looks like our version is looking too sharp, so I will select the bevel and set this to, let's say, 0.4. 4.5. Now these look quite similar. I will hide this again and I will apply this deformer. To apply it, I will right click on my object and click on Connect Objects and delete. Now another time lapse probably. Now I will clean these bad looking parts with the polygon pen tool again. Alright, I am done with the adjustments. Always try to check your mesh in wireframe mode to detect any problems or artifacts. I think we are looking fine over here. The next step is going to be about getting an uniform mesh, which means that I will draw that one in. By the way, you don't have to do that, but I like to have my meshes as uniform as possible. This looks nice. Then probably another one over here. But I want something straight, so I will come over to the top view, grab line cut tool, turn this off to cut through and add this one in. Then connect these ones. We can drop this one in as well. Then if we have time, we can play around with these edges and use equal spacing tool, for example. Now let's enable SubD. Let me select these ones as well. And use equal spacing tool. As I said, if you have time, you can work on these much longer than I do over here. The more you time you invest in, the better the result will be. But for this tutorial, I believe this is going to be okay. Next up, we are going to model another section of the target model, which is going to be that circular shape. I have to model this section separately because this one is quite angular and this is quite curved. So by modeling this separately, we are gonna simplify the process quite a lot. So let me select that now and move it back to 0 and hide the mesh we are working on. To model these parts, as you can guess, I will add in a cylinder, position it. This new mesh should cover the whole mesh. Now I will hit A and B to see the wireframes. First thing first, we can set this to 2. I will just need that center edge loop. Then, most importantly, I need to increase up my rotation segments because right now, if I try to model that detail with 16 segments, it's not gonna happen because we do not have enough resolution to model this piece. So I will double this up to 32, which will be enough in this case to model these parts. Once I have adjusted the segments, I will make this editable. I can get rid of these immediately. Then I will make a functoric selection and inset just the position of this inset. Then Alt Control, move it up. Again, scale it down and adjust the size of it. Now that part, well, it's going to be quite easy. First, let me add that in, then I will grab these polygons, hold down Control and move these on the Z. Then I will flatten out these polygons by scaling them on the Z. I will need to scale them on the X as well. And this is going to be it. We don't need to model it completely, as I will slice this right side off. Then yeah, we are good to go. Sorry, we should close that hole. So why don't we apply close polygon hole tool? Let me, before doing that, hide the CAD model and unhide the proper mesh, because I need to see the edge flow of this SubD ready mesh. Okay, this is looking fine. I mean, these edges are aligned with the edges of the target mesh, which means that I can hide this back. Now it is time to add bevels to this mesh as well, just like we did before. So I will grab my bevel tool with one subdivision and bevel these edges. Same here. If it is hard to see, you can always hit NNG to see through. I will bevel these edges again. I won't bevel this because I could smooth these out by subdividing the mesh. Then that's it for the bevels. Now let me hide these and put this one underneath SubD, because I will need to add my supporting edges. For example, that one, that one, that one, and that one. And let's not forget this. Again, just like I showed you before, we will need an extra edge loop to support the curve before and after. We can do the same here, or we can make it set and delete these triangles and apply close polygon hole tool. As long as these edge flows match, we will be okay. I mean the direction of these edges and the direction of these ones. Now, let me select these ones and move them up. We need to level these two surfaces, these flat areas. So I will just select these bottom points. Then I will enable snap and move these on that edge, which will level this. By the way, for merging these two shapes, I will drop these loops in. I will grab this one, hold down Alt, put this one under a bool, and drag this cylinder under the SubD under the cube. Delete that SubD and change this to Union. This is going to delete the polygons inside, which is exactly what we want. Enable create single object and make this bool editable. Now, I will grab my favorite tool, Polygon Pen tool, and I will clean this mesh up again. Alright, everyone, I think this is going to be it. I hope I was able to give you an idea about how to approach this kind of tasks. As a 3D modeler, this is the kind of job that will come to you regularly, so I hope I was able to help. If you have any questions, just let me know anytime. Also, if you know any better methods to convert this kind of CAD models, just let us know. And I will see you in the next ones. Bye.